see what we can get done. So we got our bigger gauge wire for our fuel pump. If you watched the last video, you'll know we have the wiring pretty much maxed out on our fuel pump, so we need to take care of that. So we got the wiring here. I've got this little bulkhead fitting for the fuel tank cover thing. And then I'm gonna be wiring this directly to the battery. So I need to pass through the firewall, and it's like 60 bucks for these like ceramic pass-through things. And I was like, you know what? I have a 3D printer. I could print polyurethane. So why not just make my own? So that's what I did here. All right, so all I did was I 3D printed something with a little recess in it, this little spacer, this little pokey outy thing here. Focus, that's gonna slide in there. These two nuts tighten down over that to squeeze it, so no metal can get, come on, focus. So no metal can get in there to, you know, short out on anything. And then with these tight, you can take two more nuts, you put your little eyelet thing in there and tighten it down just like the other ones. So this did not cost me $60. I mean, in fact, these nuts, if you can tell, and this piece of stud material was just stuff I had laying around. And you know, that is stainless steel and is definitely going to be able to hold the current of a fuel pump. So let's go ahead and install it. All right, look at that. Cool. So that'll work for that. So the next thing we got to do is take the fuel pump assembly out. Once we take it out, we have to modify it for the new wires to pass through and hook up the fuel pump to the new sized wire. And then we need to run it over, and then it has to be turned on through a relay. So what we're gonna do is take this relay, this wiring isn't big enough, we're gonna take the relay off, it's a 30 amp relay. And then I got a bunch of these female spade connectors for this wiring. And we put those right onto the relay. That maximizes the size of everything going through the relay, so we don't have any choke points. And then we run wire up to there, and then on the other side go to the battery to a fuse. Well, go to a fuse and then the battery. And then grounding that fuel pump, we're gonna ground it right to the chassis by short run. I have a really good ground in that area already. So I'm gonna pop that out, which is going to be fun because you can't open the door all the way and there's a roll cage to work around. This is what we're working with. So I'm going to have to, I don't know how I'm going to do this because this wiring is not 10 gauge. I'm going to have to play around with this. All right, so I'm going to have to trust that the manufacturer is okay with this size here. And I'm just gonna have to get that get that 10 gauge as close to this as I can. This is the connector and wiring that came on the pump, like it's part of the pump. So it's clearly supposed to flow enough. So I'm thinking it might just be the run that requires the larger gauge. So I'll snip this with like an inch off of this to connect the new wiring to. That's what we're gonna try. And then I gotta find a spot on this hat to put the pass-through, which I'm running out of space on this thing. If anybody knows of any aftermarket aluminum hats that would fit this, somebody let me know. I haven't really looked into it. I might end up just having to make my own. It's not really a complicated shape. I'll probably just end up making my own if I'm honest. But for now, let me find somewhere to do this. I'm gonna get this all set up and then I'll show you guys what it looks like. All right, so it's all back together, ready to go back in the car. I just got to clean it off a little bit. That's extremely vapor tight. See if this works. All right, it's back in the tank, and I just realized I don't have enough 10 gauge wire. So I cut to where the ground is gonna go, and I'm just gonna have to use black on this side to run to the battery. I mean, it is what it is. It's not like anybody else is gonna be working on the car but me. I have enough red to get to my little lug. I don't know why the hell I thought 10 feet was gonna be enough. Whatever. So yeah, that's in there, that's hooked up. I'm actually almost out of gas. I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be helping my issue. So I was gonna finish tuning this thing on the E50, but I think I might go grab the can of E90 I have and just dump it in here. I'm waiting still on the fusible link, sorry, and the 10 gauge ring terminals to show up. So I'll throw some gas in it in the meantime, get everything cut to length, strip everything, and that way I'll be ready to go. Oh, and I gotta hook the relay up. Can't forget that. All right, fuel pump wiring is all hooked up. Got a fusible link, our 10 gauge wire up to that stud. And in here, it's hooked up to that stud over there, down to the relay, which I need to hang. Ground is hooked up. I haven't even tried this yet, so you get to watch it happen live. Actually, hold on, I'm gonna pause so that I can clean this lens off. Okay, that's better. All right, let's try this, shall we? Fuel pump. Oh yeah, that thing's cooking now. Sounds like it's got more power to it. Cool. Actually, it is Sunday, and I have to deal with the neighbors that I won't run the dyno on Sundays, especially not on a race car. So tomorrow, we will see if that helped anything. I also poured E70 in it because the tank was really low. I poured 4 gallons, that was mixed. So the ethanol content might be a little higher. I'm thinking it might be E65 on the high end. I still need to get a can of E98, but the local supplier is actually at the PRI show, so I can't. So I'll have to do that next week. But for the time being, we'll just let it sit here. It's got to warm up in here a little bit. I'm gonna come out here and work on this, which I'll start the video series on very soon. That is a forged internal VQ35. So yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. No, you'll see me in about 10 seconds, but I'll see you tomorrow. Well, that was fun. Blew a lower radiator hose right off and emptied the thing of coolant. So that's exciting. All right, that's got coolant going in it. Let's look at the data log. It started breaking up around 7,500 RPM, and that's because it was really rich, because now it has the appropriate fuel pressure. So, 93 PSI during that pull. So our fuel flow problem is fixed. So now I got to go in and pull out all the fuel that I had put in before to make it so it won't run like that. And our ethanol content is up to 59%. That's it. But I do have some X98 on the way if we need to bump that up. But yeah, fuel pressure issue's fixed. So I gotta rebleed the cooling system now. And then I pulled the fuel out already, and we'll do another pull. on the bright side, it's blowing the hose off after the pull. I tried a different radiator cap that time. Oh, crap, that can't be right. Yeah, there's something going on. You're looking at that. Okay, so there's got to be an air pocket somewhere. So the first pull today, we saw 56 psi of coolant pressure, and then pop goes the weasel. The second pull, we saw 66 psi of pressure, and then pop goes the weasel. The other day, let's download one from the other day. The other day, if we look at our coolant pressure, at the top of the pull, we were seeing 38 pounds of pressure. And then if we look at the 585 pull, the first pull that we did, during that pull, we saw 37 psi of pressure. So what changed between then and today? It's colder out, but that shouldn't mean anything. All right, so after talking this over with machine shop and a tuner buddy of mine, we've breached the head gasket. Now, the cause of that could be one of several things. It's definitely not head stud size, because Jesus. It could be that we need more head stud torque, which I can't imagine. At 90 foot-pounds, that should be more than enough for this on those head studs. So that could be one thing, which I just spoke to Cometic. They don't think it's that. It could be because we were using the extra thick one to lower the compression. That could be it, because that obviously increases your chances of having a breach. Again, Cometic doesn't think that. We also could just be at the point where an MLS gasket just isn't going to hold up to this. We might be just the way the engine design is with such a narrow sleeve. We could just be at the point where an MLS gasket ain't going to cut it, and we need a copper one. So it pains me to say this, but it needs a copper head gasket. You know, we got two good pulls with the coolant pressure being where they should. So the pull number one, coolant pressure, you know, at the top of it was, you know, only a little above what our radiator cap was. And then same thing with pull number two, it's a 28 psi radiator cap. And then if you watch, this is the coolant pressure. You can see as our boost goes up, which is this line here, our coolant pressure is doing the same thing. And when the boost levels out, the coolant pressure levels out. The strange thing is that the coolant pressure stayed on until it blew the hose off. That's a bit weird, because like when the boost pressure drops, this should start like really dropping, and it didn't. But that's probably just something funky going on. So made more power than before, 587, and nothing's really broken. It's just a time thing to swap the head gasket out, assuming we didn't warp anything. Oil pressure's good. It's got good compression still. It's just when we get up into that higher boost, higher power, it's just pushing that head gasket open. So I'm waiting for a phone call back from Cometic to see if they can get me a copper head gasket, if they can make me one. And I also have a call in with another head gasket company to see if they can make me one. Either way, it's looking like this thing is just going to have to sit until we get that sorted out. I've got this 300ZX project that I got to get going. That takes priority over this. I was hoping I was just going to, you know, do a couple more pulls today and be done with this, but apparently not. The radiator is pregnant. You can see it bulging out, but it's holding fluid, so, you know, I'll probably just reuse that. Yeah, so sucks. I'm extremely disappointed. So I put a lot of work into getting this to this point. Was hoping that would kind of be it. The car still runs, drives great. I mean, if we look back at, you know, that last poll, which is this log number 4 here, the air fuel ratios were great. It held the boost great. If we look at our, ignore that. If we look at our dyno graph, beautiful graph. The torque started to fall off, but that's because, you know, the boost started to fall off because our duty cycle is just flat, so it's not going to keep it rising up. So we know that there's more power in it. We know there's more fuel in it. The fuel pressure rose exactly as it should have. So we know that that's good. So it's going to come down to getting it to stay sealed. And this is part of pushing a platform. You don't know these things until you run into them. So we were hoping the head studs would fix it, because if you recall, the last time this thing was running on the dyno, we had a similar issue. In that case, we stretched the head studs, clearly. But this is just the next thing we got to sort out. So as soon as I get the time, we'll pull this engine back out, pull the head off it, check everything, make sure it's flat. And then hopefully we'll have a copper head gasket to put in it. And we're just gonna have to go from there. So this is it's just part of it. Everybody that tried making, you know, 700, 800, 900 horsepower on a K series went through similar things. Stuff breaks. And we could fix this head gasket and we could run into the next thing that gives out. You don't know. We're in uncharted territory here. And I'm not sitting here trying to justify my failure. This is a hardware failure. There's no control over this. We're running not a lot of boost, comparatively speaking, but the cylinder pressures are absolutely ridiculous at this horsepower level. They're freaking insane. So we're talking thousands and thousands of PSI of cylinder pressure, which just is what it is. So I'm just extremely disappointed. I'm not gonna lie, it's more sadness than disappointment, because you put a lot of work into something, you want it to work. I mean, I'm not really showing my face right now because I honestly feel like I could cry, because just want this thing to be done, ready to go, so that it can hit the track when the season starts. And it's just not looking like that's going to be the case, because it's going to take a while to get a head gasket. It's going to take a while for me to clear out my schedule. Like I said, this thing is going to suck up probably the next month. And then I have a smart car project that's coming. And then in between all of that, I have work that comes in for day jobs. It's just disappointing. So that's what I'm going to call that.
Like and subscribe.